Dana Rett.
Good afternoon, and thank you, David, for the generous introduction. Let me say what an honor it is to be here to talk a little bit about what we're doing in Camden, particularly during these extraordinarily fiscally challenging times. I had an opportunity to speak with my group there at the table just to share some of our common challenges, but I certainly believe that with challenges come opportunities, and we are certainly pursuing those opportunities to help us to move Camden forward, an urban center that has struggled for years to be reborn. I'd like to thank David for the invitation to be here and certainly to be a part of the 9th Annual Forum on Local Government and the work that the center has been doing to support all of our various local elected and appointed officials and delivering the most cost-efficient and effective services to our respective constituencies. Since assuming office back in January of 2010, I'm sure you've been reading the paper where I've been dealt a very difficult budget, a very difficult challenge indeed, and spending the first year getting our hands around the fiscal issues of the city has consumed much of my time. When I took office last year, coming into office, I wanted to bring about accountability, transparency, and certainly trust into city government. And I'm sure all of us struggle with that same issue as we serve our residents in our respective communities. Realizing the challenges that Camden was faced with, I knew it was very, very important very early on to build a team that was up to the task of defining how we delivered services to our residents, how we delivered services to our businesses, and every person and entity in between in a cost-efficient and effective way. It was important that all of my cabinet members and executive management team understood the challenges going into this very critical time, and also the opportunity to rewrite Camden's destiny now that the state was transitioning from state control to local control. Camden had been under state takeover since 2002 with the Meyner legislation that is known as the Municipal Rehabilitation and Economic Recovery Act, where $175 million were infused in the city of Camden through EDA bonds, Economic Development Authority bonds. The act was never intended to solve all of the issues of Camden. The act, if you look at it from our perspective and where we are in this point in time, was simply a stimulus bill, which really helped to foster the eds and meds in the city of Camden, to expand their presence and to be a part of Camden's transformation. Now that Camden is a post-industrial city, our new identity is that of the eds and meds, where our anchor institutions are driving the local and regional economy. And part of the transition under my watch included transitioning from the period of a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, that had assumed all of the powers that were formerly vested in the office of the mayor, and also in large part a lot of the powers that were vested in city council, and transferring those protocols back to the office of the mayor and city council. So the first year has been a lot of capacity building so that we could manage the financial challenges that confronted the city. Not only was the city faced with a financial challenge, but certainly the state of New Jersey, with the new governor coming in, Governor Chris Christie, tackling at first a $2 billion deficit for fiscal year 10 and an $11 billion deficit for fiscal year 11. For Camden, that depends on extraordinary aid and on special municipal aid. Our budget, just to give you an indication of how much money was coming to the city from the state of New Jersey, was $125 million to balance our budget. In other words, over 85% of state funding through a special municipal aid appropriation helped to balance the budget. That money was no longer available to the 9 distressed cities in the state of New Jersey. The special municipal aid and extraordinary aid and capital city aid, which is specific to the city of Trenton, those 3 programs alone offered up to $750 million to 9 cities. Under the new paradigm in New Jersey, those programs were collapsed during the fiscal year state budget into what is now known as transitional aid to localities. So where $750 million formerly existed to 9 distressed municipalities, the funding was reduced at the state level to $250 million and offered to 25 municipalities. Camden had to compete and go up against suburban and also rural and other urban towns that would be dependent on some of this transitional aid to localities in order to balance their budget. Immediately, I knew it was important to change the corporate culture of Camden City government that was used to getting a check on the last day of the fiscal year, never believing that cuts were necessary nor that layoffs would ever occur in a city such as Camden, because past practice had been under former governors, whether Democrat or Republican, to write a check for Camden during the last day of the fiscal year. But recognizing that we had a new leader in trend who was very fiscal minded and cutting the budget at the state level, and again having served on the Budget and Appropriations Committee, I saw the train coming down the track, and that's why it was important that my team had the capacity to not only be innovative and creative, but to come up with ways to not only enhance revenues, but also to cut costs. So despite many of the national economic realities that municipalities across this nation are faced with, my administration and my team, contrary to what folks thought was going to happen in Camden, stepped up to the challenge and demonstrated that Camden was able to make difficult decisions during very difficult times in order to move the city forward. In fiscal year 10, while the state faced a fiscal year budget of $2 billion, we faced a deficit of $8 million. So sworn in, here's your $8 million deficit, you have to balance a budget from a former administration, was my first challenge. And because Camden was able to identify $4 million in cuts, the state met the city of Camden halfway with a $4 million appropriation to ensure that we closed the fiscal year on a balanced note. For fiscal year 2011, we made significant cost savings, which included furloughs. It included increasing the rate of contribution by our employees towards their health benefits, which is mandated by state law. 1.5% are the employee contributions to their health benefits. And we also increased as much as we could across the board areas where fees could be increased in order to enhance revenues. And we looked at public-private partnerships to strengthen our transitional aid to localities application to the state of New Jersey. Again, there was no guarantee that Camden was going to get the special municipal aid that had previously been awarded without going into a competitive process. And for a change, and I know it was really amazing to many, I received many calls that said, you know, Mayor Ritt, you're the envy of the state. But Camden was looked at as the poster child of how to do things fiscally right, as opposed to the poster child of how to do things fiscally wrong. In fact, the Christie administration recognized Camden nationally for making tough decisions during very difficult times. So we are continuing to strengthen our relationship with the new governor, with his cabinet members, again, while making the case for Camden. We have extraordinary challenges to overcome in that Camden has a weak tax base. Locally, we raise only $20 million in taxes, and that's assuming 100% collection. And I'm sure many of you are faced with some challenges in your municipalities in that job loss, the depressed economy, and the fact that people are struggling just to pay their mortgages and to put food on the table. So again, you know, we are dealing with these challenges head on and trying to strengthen Camden's not only fiscal house, but also strengthen youth and families as we go forward. Before I begin to outline some of the economic development and redevelopment activity that is happening in the city of Camden, because we also recognize the importance of creating a rateable as we move forward. If we ever want to move towards fiscal solvency, we have to really tackle the issue of public safety, which I know is the elephant in the room. It certainly is no secret that nationally Camden made headlines when it laid off 168 of its police officers on January 18th. Even after having met with union leadership for over 7 months and presenting every budget document that our internal team worked on, while also explaining the fiscal realities that were happening in places like Newark and Trenton, Jersey City, and Paterson. It was unfortunate that the union leadership made a decision not to give any concessions and to hold the line while sacrificing their brothers and sisters at the lower ranks. Yet, we realized that we have to move on in the city of Camden and address public safety in a meaningful way. I know that the summer months are ensuing and now are here upon the city of Camden, and I was able to reach out to Governor Christie to strike a deal where, through our South Jersey Port Corporation, an infusion of a fund through the South Jersey Port pilot, we were able to rehire 55 of our officers this past April 1st, and because of our federal COPS award, we were able to bring on an additional 19 officers. So out of the 168 that were laid off, 74 were rehired while we're exploring the concepts of a countywide regional police department. It is in its discussion stages on how we do more with less, working with other municipalities in the state of New Jersey who are now faced with a hard 2% cap in terms of their budgets going forward. So it is forcing all of us to have these conversations that we've never had before. In the meantime, my commitment to public safety has never wavered, and we have moved forward to secure technologies which serve as a force multiplier in many respects. We have a mobile command center, which is the first 24/7 operation of its kind in New Jersey. Our mobile command center, which supplements our policing efforts, enables our police personnel to evaluate in real time the state of public safety in any neighborhood. It helps them to direct the most effective and efficient deployment of resources. It is self-supportive and equipped with state-of-the-art technology and crime-fighting tools. While we have this one unit that has been purchased through a federal grant, we are looking to purchase another unit so that one unit can be dedicated to the south side of Camden. The other unit will be dedicated to the north and east side of Camden. Camden is 9 square miles, and if we have the proper resources, the proper technology, we should be able to increase public safety in a meaningful way. But I've often said that public safety is not just about arresting your way out of the problem. It is also about prevention, investing in our young people, changing the academic outcomes of public education, and also reentry. Reentry in terms of individuals who are coming home from institutions having formerly been incarcerated. In the state of New Jersey, and according to 2007 projections, 70,000 adults are slated to return home from institutions of having been incarcerated to places like Trenton, Newark, and Camden, and then 1,600 juveniles that were in the Juvenile Justice Commission. So we have to prepare to receive these individuals back home, and in order to transition them safely into the community, you know what we need at the end of the day are jobs so that these individuals can be employed or else they recidivate. Other technology that we utilize in the city of Camden is known as a shot spotter, which is a deployment of specialized microphones placed in strategic locations based on historical gun violence. These specialized microphones are tuned to differentiate between gunshots and other noises, and the shot spotter can pinpoint the locations within a very small area. All gunshots are then filtered through a computer program for accuracy and plotted in mapping software so that, again, our police officers can respond to the exact location. And now we are moving forward with our Eye in the Sky program, which has been talked about in the city of Camden for over a decade or more. It has been my administration that was able to loosen up the money in Trenton. $1.8 million is being invested in an Eye in the Sky program so that we have cameras that cover every quarter and every neighborhood in the city of Camden. And we look forward to being fully operational by July of this year. So as you can see, we are working through our public safety issues. At the end of the day, it gets down to dollars and cents in terms of the contracts that were previously negotiated when the COO took over the operations of the city of Camden. They are contracts that we literally cannot sustain given the revenues compared against the expenses in the city of Camden. And unless we get concessions and unless we are successful in renegotiating those contracts, it forces us to explore other options such as regionalizing our police force. While the city's not perfect and we're dealing with fiscal realities, public safety, and yes, public education, we're moving forward with redevelopment and we're moving forward with revitalizing our neighborhoods. One of my most favorite quotes is taken from the poet Walt Whitman, who dreamed in a dream that he saw a city invincible. Camden is a city of 80,000 residents. It is an urban center that is experiencing a rebirth, and it is moving forward on 4 guiding principles: by seeking regional solutions to common issues, by creating a dynamic 24-hour urban center complemented by a synergetic waterfront, by improving our neighborhoods, empowering residents to become self-sufficient, and while at the same time working with them to achieve economic stability while revitalizing our various neighborhoods in the city of Camden. And we are also moving forward by initiating short-term improvement actions based on comprehensive long-term plans. There are several assets which give Camden the competitive advantage. Camden has 15 miles of waterfront property that is less than a mile from Philadelphia. Camden's waterfront is home to the Susquehanna Bank Center, and if you like Jimmy Buffett, we invite you to the Buffett concert that's coming up very soon. It is also home to the Camden River Sharks minor league baseball stadium, Wiggins Waterfront Park, Camden's Children's Garden, the Adventure Aquarium, the River Bus Ferry with access to Penn's Landing, the U.S. New Jersey Battleship, Dranoff Properties, and our South Jersey Port Corporation, which is still a center of economic activity and jobs. Camden's unmatched regional location also lends itself to direct access to the bridges of Philadelphia and through the Ben Franklin and Walt Whitman Bridge, linkages to all major highways, Interstate 676 and 295. We have the regional public transportation system such as the New Jersey Light Rail, New Jersey Transit, and Pagano high-speed line, and in the very near future, assuming the politics work themselves out, that we'll have the Glassboro-Camden line, which is the light rail extended down to Rowan University. Camden is also the gateway to Philadelphia, if you look at it from that vantage point. And it is important to note that Camden and Philadelphia share one waterfront, which presents a unique opportunity between 2 states to maximize development opportunities along the waterfront and promote the waterfront as a tourist destination. And ultimately, working with Mayor Nutter, we look forward to realizing the vision of 2 cities, 1 waterfront. Camden is home to world-class institutions. You've heard me allude to the EDS and MEDS, which is the tools that are used to transform communities like West Philadelphia and Massachusetts. Camden is a post-industrial city that has transformed itself into a center of the EDS and MEDS, where our higher education and healthcare institutions are partners in leading the way for Camden's revitalization as anchors. And unquestionably, our anchor institutions are the key to economic health and civic pride and are driving the economy in the city and the South Jersey region. Camden is home to Rutgers University within the Cooper Grant neighborhood. And just recently, we broke ground earlier this year in April for a new student graduate dormitory project, which is the next slide, which will consist of 350 beds and 7,000 square feet of retail space on the first floor. This building will be a 12-story building and start to create a skyline in the city of Camden fronting Philadelphia. If we ever want to move to Cooper University Hospital, which has been in the city for over 120 years. In fact, I met a mother of a Cooper baby here at Lafayette College. And Cooper University Hospital expanded its patient care pavilion and opened its doors in 2009. This expansion represents $220 million of patient care facility, patient beds, and upgrades in technology. Cooper has not only expanded its presence in the city of Camden, but certainly has adopted the entire Cooper Plaza neighborhood, facilitating home rehabilitation and sale of homes to their employees. In essence, they are creating workforce housing and attracting the middle class back into the city of Camden. Cooper has also advanced streetscaping, greening, landscaping improvements, along with new public spaces throughout the community. It is definitely one of the premier neighborhoods to watch in the future. Rowan University and its Camden campus represents 40 years of service to the city. Rowan at Camden and the acquisition earlier this year of the historic First Camden National Bank and Trust will allow the university to expand its programming in the city of Camden. Back in 2009, Governor Corzine signed an executive order calling for the creation of the Cooper Medical School of Rowan University, a 4-year allopathic medical school. That school is now under construction and is slated for completion in 2012. In fact, they are well ahead of schedule and recently had their topping off ceremony 3 weeks ago. This particular facility is located across from Cooper University Hospital at the corner of Broadway and Benson Streets and represents a $140 million investment, 200,000 square feet of space, and again, it is slated to open in 2012. Harnessing Camden's potential really talks about harnessing our inner city neighborhoods and again fostering development that creates ratables in the long term, creates homeowners that ultimately will pay taxes to the city of Camden. We recognize that making Camden a business-friendly city has been key in order to move a lot of our projects successfully through the pipeline, and that is why earlier this year during my State of the City, I introduced my business growth and development team that is tasked with getting projects through to completion. We identified a city ombudsman who is here with me today, Mr. Vince Becerra, who is also the director of our urban enterprise zone, which offers business incentives to many of those businesses that are here in the city and those wishing to locate in the city of Camden. The Salvation Army Kroc Center is also slated to be completed in 2012. It features 120,000 square feet of recreational, educational, and cultural arts programs and will be located in one of our premier neighborhoods, which is Kramer Hill neighborhood in the city of Camden. That facility is being constructed on the former site of the Harrison Avenue landfill. Another depiction of Kramer Hill, you can see Kramer Hill is also situated in a prime location in that it has access to Cooper River and also Delaware River, and is located next to the North Camden community, which is a site of future economic development activity that will also bring ratables in the very near future. This is the official rendering of the Kroc Center as it's being constructed. The Riverfront State Prison, which took up 14 acres of land on prime real estate, our waterfront, was something that the city of Camden had to accept back in 1985 in exchange for $3.5 million of special municipal aid. What a trade-off. But thank God for the community stakeholders and those that lobbied officials to demolish this prison, which should have never been placed on our waterfront in the first place. This site is now demolished and totally cleared and has been greened, and we are now marketing this site for development opportunities going forward. But even in the marketing of the site, we involve the community with their vision for the Riverfront Park, because for those of you that are doing redevelopment plans in your various municipalities, you recognize the importance of getting the stakeholders to the table so that they are a part of the visioning process and not resistant to what you are trying to accomplish in totality. The residents and stakeholders of North Camden collaborated to come up with this unified vision of a bustling waterfront park and mixed-use site that reflects the heritage and interests of North Camden. It is a community-driven master plan that was recently developed, and the plan objectives include providing continuous public access to the riverfront. It connects the riverfront to the inner city neighborhood of North Camden. It reestablishes North Camden's maritime roots. It also enhances the visual impact of the riverfront and also takes advantage of an environmental asset while also providing recreation. North Camden, just for proximity, is located next to Cooper Grant, which is the home of Rutgers University, and it is just north of the Ben Franklin Bridge. So again, this particular site will offer dramatic views of the Philadelphia skyline and also dramatic views of the bridge at night. City Hall, as featured in the left and to your right, was faced with an old dilapidated building known as the Parkade Building. That building is now being demolished, and in its place will be green spaces that are created. In fact, Roosevelt Plaza Park will be created again as a footprint and an inviting space to really create a Camden City downtown, a center city downtown, which really has been obsolete for many years. So we're looking forward to the completion of Roosevelt Plaza in the very near future as the building is being demolished. Our Fortune 500 company and partner anchor institution is Campbell Soup and has been in the city of Camden since 1869, selling its products to over 120 countries throughout the world. Campbell Soup, while it had the opportunity to move out, like our Eds and Meds, decided to remain an anchor institution and a corporate partner in Camden's revitalization. Featured on this slide is the new Campbell Soup corporate expansion and their new employee center, which opened last year, 90,000 square feet of space, which is located in the Gateway neighborhood and will further facilitate the creation of an office park in this particular neighborhood. On the waterfront are enormous opportunities to develop residential units for sale and also for rent. Dranoff Properties, which opened the Victor Slough back in 2004, has a luxury apartment building offering 341 units. We are currently working with Dranoff as a developer to develop what is known as Building Number 8, which is an old industrial warehouse that formerly was the site of RCA Victor. The radio lofts, as it will be known, will offer upscale condominiums for sale down on Camden's waterfront. This gives you another aerial view of the Victor Lofts, which is a 341 luxury apartments. On the first floor are retail spaces in the Victor's Pub, along with the Rita's Water Ice. So you can see that we're starting to get these small businesses to move into the city of Camden. The Radio Lofts is pictured to the back of the building and is also, again, down in the Cooper Grant neighborhood, which is the home of Rutgers University. Future planned activities include the East Village, the Cooper's Market, which is next to the ferry terminal, which is fully leased, and also an expanded marina. Working with our residents, we launched a program known as the Camden Home Improvement Program, CHIP, as we refer to it, which allows residents forgivable loans of up to $20,000 to do life safety improvements to HVAC systems, to plumbing, to electrical, and also to windows and also sidings. We were able, with $8 million, to assist over 300 homes in 21 neighborhoods. What we found with the program was the impact that started to happen in the neighborhood, in that a CHIP awardee, as that person began to upgrade his or her home, the neighbors next to them began to do the same upgrades to their homes, thereby improving the neighborhood around them. And we're looking to do a second phase. This is an upgrade of an HVAC system, before and after, upgrade of plumbing and bathroom fixtures, before and after. And then in January of last year, in addition to the CHIP, we were able to leverage with an NSP2 grant, $26.1 million in federal funding have been awarded to the city of Camden, again to address housing, demolition, rehabilitation, and construction, along with greening of vacant lots and over 10 census tracts throughout the city of Camden. We are the only city to receive such an award of a NSP2 grant, which touches just about every aspect or every angle of the city. And we are, as I mentioned, leveraging that program along with the Camden CHIP in order to stabilize our neighborhoods and stabilize our community. New school construction, as I mentioned, public safety is an issue, as is public education in most urban centers that are trying to revitalize and experience a renaissance. We are exploring partnerships with Governor Christie and also President Obama under the public-private partnership in order to change academic outcomes in urban cities and academic outcomes among urban youth. Unless we address public safety and public education and have an educated workforce, it becomes a very difficult task indeed to transform an urban center. Finally, the Camden Greenway Streetscape Program, again federally funded, was in partnership with the City of Philadelphia and Coopers Ferry Development Association. Camden received a $5.8 million Tiger grant from the Department of Transportation, which will create a regional trail network which improves walking, biking access, and completed street rehabilitation in various quarters. So essentially we will be connected to Philadelphia by virtue of the Ben Franklin Bridge, and once we complete the trail improvements, it will connect us to a neighboring community, which is Pennsauken and the Cooper River Park. Again, creating this linear park for pedestrians and for anyone that is riding their bike to travel through the city. Abandoned properties has been an enormous issue in the city of Camden because of the disvestment over a number of decades, where there was, back in 1986, speculators who came to Camden, purchased a lot of properties, but never performed the upgrades to those properties. Many of those properties have deteriorated over the years. So what we've added to our toolbox in order to advance revitalization in a city such as Camden is the Abandoned Properties Act, which allows us to exercise spotlight eminent domain. This again will help us in our redevelopment efforts as we try to transform our city of Camden. And there are various city initiatives that we normally offer and business incentives to any prospective developer or interested businessman looking to do work in the city of Camden, looking to move to the city of Camden. Again, we are addressing on a continual basis public safety. We are in our second inaugural year of the Camden Clean campaign. In fact, we have a great cleanup tomorrow in 96-degree weather, where I'll go out there with shovels and rakes and do what we do to get the residents involved with the Public Works Department, reclaiming our neighborhoods and removing the trash and debris. And our Economic Empowerment Summit, which is a continued effort to improve financial literacy among our families and our young people so that they can survive during these very difficult and strenuous times in our nation's economy. So we are, while confronted with many challenges in the city of Camden, fiscally, from a redevelopment aspect, from a public safety aspect, and also public education, believe in the great possibilities and potential Camden has if we move Camden forward, if we create public-private partnerships in this era of shrinking resources. We understand that government cannot continue to operate as it has operated in the past, and that we have to run government like you run a business, with a business mind, as if you are a CEO and you're running a business, to make sure that you have customer service satisfaction, making sure we're doing the outputs, but also looking for ways to enhance your revenues, looking for ways to collaborate and partner with adjacent municipalities to provide shared services in a unique array of innovative options that we've never explored before. So again, keep your eyes on Camden. We will continue to do our best to set the trend and to become an example, and we thank you for the opportunity to present what we're doing in the great city of Camden, New Jersey. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if we have time, but if you'd like me to take a few questions, I will. Any questions? Yes.
Mayor, your eye in the sky camera system, is it fully monitored 24/7 by a designated officer or support staff?
We have sworn law enforcement officials that monitor the cameras 24/7. They conduct virtual patrols,
Are they members of the FOP?
of course, and the top superior officers. We have 2 bargaining units.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the NSP grant funding. Has the community development block grant funding cuts by the federal government, how has that affected the city?
We have experienced a slight decline in our CDBG funding. Our CDBG funding, as you know, is driven by population and statistics, and during the last census we lost roughly 2,700 people in our population. But our CDBG funding we use in large part for the home program, providing first-time home buyers loans or deposits to support a lot of our recreational programs in the city of Camden, so that we have viable alternatives to our young people being on the streets. We try to give them options to come into our community centers and have programming to keep them busy.
I'm one of your neighbors across the river in Bristol Township.
Okay. Hi, neighbor.
One of the same things.
Yes. Yes, sir.
What kind of success have you had negotiating with the various nonprofits in the city, such as the university and the hospitals, in terms of payments in lieu of tax agreements?
Good question. So they're nonprofit entities, and in the state of New Jersey, they're not obligated to pay taxes. Under the Meyner legislation, there was a provision for any entity that drew down part of the $175 million that they had to enter into a service agreement with the city to pay 2% of the funds that they received from the ERB. So for instance, if your entity received $1 million out of our ERB funding, then $20,000 would be paid annually in a payment service fee to the city for over 20 years. So those have been some of the creative agreements that, again, were legislated. We've been working with our anchor institutions in large partnership, particularly Rutgers University has been a good partner with my administration on the capacity building, and even with the student graduate dormitory project, we negotiated for the retail space to be fully taxable. But to give you a percentage, my mind is clicking, so over 52% of the property in the city of Camden is tax exempt. Yeah, I sucked the air out of the room on that one. Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you once again, and good luck to all of you in your respective municipalities. We wish you well. Working with